whenever we talk about observations, we are talking about your tracking data. So any tracking data, be it your colors, vehicles, humans, or whatever tracking data you have. So you can come here and have a view of it. So what's going on in terms of your tracking data? So as soon as it loads, we can talk to it. So maybe whilst it's loading, any questions at this point? Any comments? Anything you're still looking forward to? No questions as yet.
I think from my side, what would be nice to have on this dashboard is to, who is to have a filter for who uploaded it. So if you have specific groupings of users or something like that, be able to then break that down to see which user base has been uploading specific reports and the like.
Oh yes. In fact, so that's one of the requests. Great one there, JP. One of the things that the guys are, I've actually asked them as well, is to, because we have this thing of understanding some of the things as man days, so guys want to understand the patrol effort. So in terms of how many hours has the rangers been working in a particular week or particular month, and then also the reports. So what you're talking to JP. So who reported on so many, they reported so many security reports, so many monitoring. So that's definitely some of the things that are coming out now that I'm also actually looking forward to. So as I said earlier on, we are working on this. And if you have any other, suggestions, do raise it in case we don't have it at this point in time. So definitely, that's a big one for me as well. Yeah, great question. Oh, there's a question here.
Thank you. Apart from the bar charts, do you have a freedom of like doing the line charts, scatter charts, just like it says here in Microsoft?
Yeah, definitely. So after I covered this last dashboard here, I'm gonna then show you. Sorry. So after I've covered this last section here, I'm gonna then show you how you can then where you can do so. I don't know how deep we're gonna go into that, but you can do things such as pie charts, line graphs, as you're asking now, or there's many types of charts that you can do in Tableau. So definitely, we're gonna touch on that. All right. Yes.
When you download, here's one question. When you download the data, you of course types Excel and PDFs and the picture as you did now. On the Excel part, one thing I've been trying to get the guys to include in the Excel spreadsheet is to develop a long function, like the previous use of each incident heat relocation or perimeter sighting or whatever the case may be, then set in the report. So that we can have in the spreadsheet as you download, we can have that long option so that we can have coordinates. Because for us now, for us to do that, I must do it manually now to capture those coordinates and put it into the different software to really see and it is for me to be working. So I need an option whereby I can download it as a CSV file or a spreadsheet and just put it into any software to read those coordinates easily without the need to bring them by one by one.
Yeah.
If we can have that, that would really help us going forward.
Totally. I'm assuming. Sorry, who am I talking to? Peter. All right. So I'm assuming, Peter, you are talking to this export function that's here. So you're talking to this one, right? Yeah.
Also in Tableau.
In, oh, okay. So okay. I need to confirm that. I haven't tried that in particular, but it should be possible. So basically, the principle is whatever data that you see there, it should be possible to come through. So let's have that discussion afterwards and see. I haven't tried that in particular. Yeah. Yeah. I'll come here and then. Yeah.
My question is about the rights that you're giving to the people. You said like if somebody wants W has to contact you. In this case, I mean the developer. Why don't you make it free? Like somebody can just, if I just use EarthRanger, I can easily access this information instead of contacting the developers, because that scatters a lot of things I can give up in the process.
So, sorry, are you talking about the Tableau? Or as I was saying earlier on, that car. Yeah, actually, there was that conversation. I think we are. Chris, you can answer this.
Yeah, so we've been doing a lot of work on the back end. And so we've been limiting the number of people that
sorry,
have
Chris?
access to Tableau.
I think.
So we've been doing a lot of work on the back end that supports Tableau. And so we've been limiting the number of users just to keep pressure off this the Tableau server up to this point. You can see how sometimes it takes a while for it to load. So that's why we haven't just made that automatic.
So right now you're dealing with a small group of people whom you're able to give rights and see how the system works.
Yeah, it really, you can ask for it and we'll enable it on your site. But we have 300 sites, so we were trying to take out the support burden of 300 sites, supporting Tableau in that, and just to as we work through supporting our Tableau instance for conservation and all the people using EarthRanger, we just wanted to kind of limit things at this point. But anyone here, just if you don't have it available on your EarthRanger site, just ping support and we'll get that set up for you.
I think you had a question?
My question is, in case of real-time wildlife sightings, if you can see maybe the number of giraffes and then it always has a plus 21 or something. Is there a way of getting the exact number of different species from the reports?
Sorry, so where you see it where? So that I'm talking to the right.
From my end, I'm talking from my end.
So that plus 21, you would see it where?
From what you have there.
Oh yeah.
You can see the giraffes and then.
Oh. Okay. Can I leave that conversation for the Tableau? I think it's after this session. Because for the EarthRanger.
I assume she's asking about the event details summary, the event details dashboard.
Am I getting confused yet?
You would look at wildlife sightings, you filter on that, and then I think you could then filter on specific species for the wildlife sightings. So
What am I?
it's the event report details, right?
Oh, you're looking at that?
I think that's what you're asking for. You want to look at a specific report and then break that down by species or time of day or I don't know what else is in there.
Oh, so she wants to filter this report by a certain field.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, right. Break down by species.
And that species would be inside the report. So there'll be a field in the report and she wants to filter by that. You can.
Yeah, go ahead.
So here we have, so this is another dashboard. So here there are all the fields that are coming through. So if your, whatever field it is, let's say.
I think, did we have a wildlife site? I don't know if we have any CAN data for that. If you go into type, we can choose.
There.
Yeah, and see if we have any data for that in this demo. Then it should.
Let's say wild dog, wildlife sighting species. No, sorry, value, field name, wildlife species.
If you want to filter it that way, I think you just kind of want to see the breakdown by different species, right? That kind of. And I'm not sure how
So it's all. I'm wondering why the others are not coming. You should see crocodile and wild dog. Okay, I'm not sure why it's behaving like that. Elena, are you spotting something else now?
but she's probably asking, turn this into a bar chart or something, by species.
Okay. So I'm wondering why, but yeah. So you should then be able to. Carry on. Sorry, Chris.
Yeah, I was thinking about if you could create. I don't know how to do it, but creating a bar chart by species type. By.
And then get a count of them. Yeah. Okay, well, we can definitely do that. Definitely, because the data is there. So we can set up that bar graph and then add a filter by this. Let's say it was wildlife sighting underscore species. So set that filter up, and then you'll be able to filter by the type of species, that bar graph. Definitely, I don't think we have it in here. Definitely we don't have that in there. Yeah.
I could write that down and we can create an example in the future.
Yeah.
And the reports
That would be that filter, the field value filter. But yeah, even if it's not there, it can be built. The data is there. We can use supply filter. I think we are done here. I'm going to start with Zablon and then move on to Horace.
More of like answering our question, yeah? So it is possible to have the bar graph or maybe creating the pie chart here. So the event details, yeah, row are fixed. You get all the data you want. So in Tableau, when you're creating maybe a visualization and dashboards, which is not done by the default analysis that comes with EarthRanger, but when you go now to customize your own analysis for your own site here, that is very possible. So I think it is for the default site here. It is not okay as a user case. It is not user centric for EarthRanger to maybe specify as a particular report or a particular dashboard. So they just give you a general view of the dashboard, and maybe when you want to customize, you can customize it on your user case level. So yes, it is possible the way she was asking.
Yeah, definitely. Thanks, Zablon. Yeah, sorry, I did not understand your question, so I'm glad we have these guys. So I hope you answered, and if you're not answered, do come. We will talk afterwards. But yeah, it is very doable. In terms of that standard dashboard, as Zablon was saying, that it's not available now in the standard. Bring that conversation. If there's many people, I guess that's been the habit of EarthRanger. When there's a lot of people asking for the same thing, then it puts enough priority on the team to then add that. Yeah.
All
right.
So I'll comment on that. So it is possible on the standard dashboard at the moment, but your field value needs to be a standardized value. So you need to, it can't be a typed in value if I understand it correctly. It needs to be, you select from cheetah, wild dog, etc. And if that field value is standardized, you can go through this and select only for wild dog, then it populates that as you're playing around from my side. But it needs to be a set value there.
Yeah.
It's one of the canvas
Yeah.
choices.
So just put everyone on the same picture. I don't want to have people sleeping. So if you open this here, you can have free text and then you have drop downs. So basically, JP was just speaking to that your field needs to be choices like this. Otherwise, if it's typing, okay, we don't have it here. But if people are typing, one person may type giraffe and miss the E, another one, which is very important. So you need to have such a data model to assist in that analysis. That's very important. We've had people who've had problems with that before. So yeah, that's important. I think there was Horace, and then we'll come here. Horace?
My question was answered by Zablon, because I was wondering if this was a standardized template, was there any room for edits to fit like specific projects? Yeah, so I believe I was answered. But now, is there a way in which you can remove this patrol dashboard analysis for projects which are not requested on patrol analysis, effort analysis?
Okay, so there's two parts there. Number one, with this dashboard, it's a template, and then when you come on board, we set a template, and the template pulls your data. So obviously, with our reporting team, they'll be setting one set template. So they're not going to pull for one site and then not pull for the other, so it's the same. So just to add on that, you do have access to your dashboard. So once I give you access, you can actually go to it and delete it if you so wish. In fact, you can edit it however you want. But when we are deploying it to you, there's a set template that we will give you that the guys are actually continuously working on. Yeah, so yeah. I think that was a question, yeah?
You answered, but would it be possible to consolidate the report maybe for quota, and will I have the number maybe of maybe 40 incidents and the graph that shows the efforts, and maybe HW signal, can I get a very simple consolidated report template that can be easy shared with others if I need to share with someone?
maybe let me say this. I don't know where the guys are, our reporting team is, with one of the dashboards they're currently working with. So they are currently working on a second dashboard that would speak, I believe, to exactly what you're saying now, where it's, I think they call it long form. And just to add, we actually have some very super user Tableau users like Zablon. They're doing, I'm just putting you out there, Zablon. Hope you don't mind. I just spotted them there. They are doing some really great stuff. So I don't know if you're available to raise your hand, Zablon, if guys want to see how your guys have been used. I think, in fact, you have a talk. I don't know if that's going to come through, the Tableau aspect in the...
Okay, the talk is on the whole sum, yeah? It's not only specific for Tableau.
Oh, okay.
Okay, so any questions on Tableau, you can ask.
Oh, perfect. Thanks, Zablon. Yeah, they are obviously on the ground. We are always looking at guys on the ground, seeing all those interesting use cases. And I know with them, they definitely making good use of Tableau. All right. I don't know. Let me just start. Yeah.
Sure, thanks. I just have a question. So to access Tableau, someone needs to be a super user, but that means they have access to everything. They see everything. So for us, it means that someone will be seeing like the rhino data, but we just want that person to only be seeing maybe the tracking data for elephants and develop that reports. Is there any way of having someone accessing Tableau without being a super user?
Okay, I guess that leads me nicely to the next part I want to touch on. Please, can you, I know there's 2 questions. Let me just lead into it, and then, yeah, you're going to carry on with those questions. Hope that's fine. All right. So I did say that the first way to access your Tableau is that button that I touched on just now, which is here, and only super users have access to that button. You can also go directly to your Tableau site. All right. And we do give you the main users, so your administrators, whoever you are, access directly to that Tableau site. So all I have to do is, let me just come here. So it's just tableau.pandas.org. Okay, I guess it's showing up there. So when you ask for a Tableau site, we tell you exactly how to access this. All right, so I'd then give you a username and a password. So I think that's fine. All right. So this will be a landing page. So I just want to go to the Easter Island one that we're looking at, and then we'll talk to that. All right. So when you get access to your Tableau site, this is what you'll basically see. All right. So in here, some of the things you can then do is exactly what you're asking now. In here, you can then be able to create users. All right. And these users, you can then limit their access. So you can just have a viewer, someone who can't do anything else but just view your data. All right. So to add users, okay, I don't know if we want to go in there, but do ask me if we want. Yeah, so I'm trying to gauge how deep to go into this, but basically you can add a user and make them a viewer, number one. And also there's a lot of things you can put in here. So you can then say, okay, I don't want this user to see this data. I want them to see that data. And even within the data, if you want to get even more advanced, you can put filters, within the data and say, okay, this user, they must filter by rhinos, and they can only see the rhino aspects of this data source. And another user cannot see that. So there's levels that you can use. And then you give them that user account, and then all they would see is just that. And in fact, guys do this a lot, So instead of sending someone a hard copy report, which is flat, you rather send them a link to a particular dashboard. And then in that dashboard, they can only see something specific. So now, whenever the data changes, so there's a new rhino recorded today, a new one tomorrow, you don't have to keep on sending them this paper. They can always log in and see all the rhinos that they want to see. All right, so definitely we can do that.
Got a question just related to that. So on the ER side, you can set your user permissions.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, and if you have Tableau enabled for them, so those permissions do not translate into what they would see. So let's have just the monitoring like I've given somebody just monitoring access.
Mm.
Yes, but I've given him access to the integration, not the Tableau server itself. So when they go to Tableau, the permissions will not reflect in the Tableau site, and they'll be able to see everything, or will the permissions reflect and they'll only be able to see monitoring?
That's a great question, actually. So Elena here just asked, for those who are familiar with EarthRanger, when you go into EarthRanger, normally you set a user, right? For any user you have. And then normally you are setting permission sets, and that user has those permissions. And then Elena is now asking, okay, now you go ahead and you create an account for that user, same user in Tableau. Will those permissions you set in EarthRanger transfer into Tableau? And the answer is no. All right. So Tableau is a separate system. EarthRanger is a separate system. They work with each other, but they are two completely separate systems. So whatever permissions you set in EarthRanger, it's not going to automatically move over to Tableau. So if you've set a user to only see rhinos in your EarthRanger, it doesn't mean that automatically they'll only see rhinos in Tableau.
Sorry, I'm talking about the integration and not the separate. The Tableau integration in ER. Just the integration.
This one here, right? So when we clicked here.
So let's say this user's got access to just monitoring stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. I'm talking about this integration here. Yes.
Oh, yeah.
So when they click that, if they want to access reports on Tableau through the integration to the permissions transfer. I understand about different permission sets on ER and Tableau, but I'm talking about in particular the integration.
All right. So this goes back to the point we made about the super user. So remember now with super user, they see everything. So they are seeing everything anyway. So anyone who sees this in EarthRanger, this button here, it's only a super user. And a super user already has access to everything. So yeah, that makes sense. Yeah. All right. Okay. So so I did mention here that so when you come in here, just for those who are then going to come and ask for this access, there's a lot of things as an administrator that you'll see in here. But normally when I train people, I only focus on 3 tabs on the left there that you normally need. If you want to go advanced, there's many other tabs. So when you start off, the number one thing, obviously, is access, as Bob just raised now. And that tab is in here, so users. So obviously, you need to know how to administer these users. And just to quickly touch on it, I'm just going to go quickly over it. So in here, in this page, you can see there's a couple of users already. And just to add it, you would come to this button and click add, and then you would say new user, and then you would give them a username. So let me call this one Bob. All right. And then it tells you whether that username is available or not. In this case, Bob is available. And then you give them the name, a full name, Bob Mandi Nyenya. All right, awesome. And then you'll give them a password. So any random password. So I want to give them a random password here. So again, this is now very important. Usually in EarthRanger, you normally let the person set their own password. But in here, there's no other way. You have to set up the password initially. All right. And then you'll give it an email, optionally, as it says here. And then we come to the first level of security, the side role. That's the first level. So Bob, earlier on, we spoke about the viewer. So this, one of the roles is viewer, right at the bottom here. So a viewer just views. So if you have your donor or your managers that only come in here to view, so normally you'll just give them this view. They're not coming to create much or anything. All right. There's other roles that are available in here. All right, so starting from the top, server administrator, normally you're not going to see that, only us at EarthRanger would see that. But the other two that I want to bring attention to you is the site administrator creator. So this is normally your administrators. So, you know, in EarthRanger, you have someone who goes into ER admin. So normally it's that person who's coming in here to create new users, delete users, So that's the person. All right. The second one I want to bring attention to you is the creator. So a creator, all it does is they add data sources, they add new dashboards, So that's what they do. They don't add users, they don't administer the site, they just create new content. All right. So those are the three. I wanted to touch on those three. So site administrator, creator, and the viewer. All right. There are others. You can always, if you want to learn more, the specifics, I can give you a link where there's like a table and it tells you exactly the nitty-gritties. So that is just a guideline. I just want to provide you with those three that you'll normally be using. So in this case, I would say this is a creator, and then I'm done. I add a user. All right. So there's just one more step. Sometimes you want to know the password of the user. So in my case, Bob. Sometimes I don't want to. Oh, sorry. Side row was not changed because they're insufficient. Oh, okay. So there's a limit. Oh, there's a long list here. Yeah, I need to remove some of these users. All right. So there's a limit on how many creators can be on a site. I guess that's important for you to know. I think the limit is around 10 per site. So I think that's more than enough. I think it's around there. All right. So the one more step I wanted to show you after it would have been created, all I then would have to do is come here to this menu and click on Force Password Update. All right. What that does, after I've done this, I'll come to Bob and I'll say, Bob, go to tableau.pandas.org. Your username, I set it as Bob, and your password, I've set it as Bob. All right. And then as soon as Bob goes there and logs on, it's going to force Bob to update their password. However, sometimes you want to know the passwords of your users. It's fine if you leave it like that. You don't force Bob to update. So that was the important one I wanted to touch on here. All right. The other scenario, which is very common, when people forget their passwords, I know most of you know this. People forget their passwords, they come to you, and normally you send them a particular email, a password reset in EarthRanger, right? In Tableau, it's different. In Tableau, you don't send such an email. In Tableau, you would have to come to the user. So let's say I come to here, and then once you're in the user, you'd go to settings, and then there's a change password option. So I'll then come here and say Kusasa, that's the new one, and I'd save. Then I'll go to my user AJ and say, your new password is now Kusasa. All right. If I want them to change it, same way, force password update. All right. So that's in terms of users, the first level I've showed you, the roles. Yeah. So just to continue, I did say there's 3 tabs that I normally show people. That's the first one. The second tab is this one here, where there's Explore. So in Explore, there's all the main things that you want. You want to analyze, you want to bring in data. It's all in here. All right. So in your Explore tab. And just to raise one important note, when we deploy the Tableau site for you, what we normally do is, number one, we give you that standard dashboard we were talking about just now. And also we avail your Tableau, your EarthRanger data, so that you can also be able to analyze the data yourself. All right. So if I come here, here's a folder and it has the EarthRanger data. All right. So I just want to change the view. I like seeing it as a list instead of grids. Yeah, I prefer seeing it like this. So this is what we do. We connect your data for your ER data. So now you might have a question. I know normally this question comes up of, how do I now interact with my data from EarthRanger? Here are the data sources, all right? So I'm gonna explain this thing, what is data sources and what is what. That's important, the important concepts in here. All right, so I'm gonna go back, just one step back. And whilst we're on the data, by the way, you can use that ER data, or you can bring any other data you might have. So at your site, you might have data about demographics, of the local communities. you might have data about financials, that you have. You are welcome to bring that organization data in here so that you can analyze it. I know of sites that analyze their financials. I think guys in Zimbabwe. So yeah, guys are doing some interesting things in here. So you're welcome to bring that data as well in here. All right. So one of the things I like doing, which I believe you all are interested in, is showing you how to then bring that data, an example, how to bring that data, and how to do a simple analysis. If you have any advanced questions, we can then, break out from there. All right. So what I'm now going to do is I want to explain the key concepts so that you can maneuver this Explore tab. And then I'm going to show you how to bring in your own data and how to then analyze it, start the analysis. All right. And before we do that, I think there were two questions here.
My name is Linda.
Yes.
So it's actually more amplifying what Peter had asked. It's about the patrols and how you download them as a CSV file, and then they come in as points. My suggestion and my best case scenario would be downloading it as a shapefile. So maybe you can give options instead of just downloading data as a CSV. I can also be able to download as a shapefile and use it maybe to merge with other data that I'm using in different platforms.
All right. So the download options, it offers a CSV, so that it's fixed. So we don't program those download options here in Tableau. So you have CSV, you have pivot tables, and then you have PDF, and then the others. So those are fixed. I guess we can suggest that to the Tableau guys to offer that shapefile option as well. Yeah. Well, we Tableau also has their they open to suggestions, so I guess we can suggest that. But for now, yeah, CSV would be the way to go. Yeah. Yes. Oh, you can now. Okay. All right. Just one more question, and then okay. Let's yes.
Yeah, I was asked in terms of within the commercial sector. Do you have any other users that we reach out to, or maybe to reach out to you in terms of developing another interface directly from Tableau to another app?
So you
from the other app to Tableau.
So you want to feed data? Oh, both ways. So you want to feed data from Tableau to another platform.
Yeah, like maybe R or any other platform that you want to do analysis.
Well, they do have a Python interface, like an API, that you can then use. So from your program, if your program like allows like a webhook, what normally people call a webhook, where you can put some code and pull in data. So they do have an API. Tableau does have an API. So you can, if you have, you can do so like that to pull data from Tableau. Although I don't know the limitations, because with APIs you can do particular things. So we can have that conversation and we can go and look at the API and look what exactly can it pull. I can't speak to the list of things that API can do. On the other hand, bringing data into Tableau now, Tableau allows you can pull data from a lot of sources, which we're going to touch on just now. So yeah, let's now go back here and it's going to touch into that, all the different sources you can actually pull data in. Yeah. All right. So I did say I just want to explain some key concepts here so that you can be able to maneuver. All right. So the first concept I wanted you to appreciate is that you have a concept called a project. All right. So here, whenever you forget what you are looking at, just go to the icon. As you can see, I'm hovering on this icon and I can see that what I'm looking at here is a project. So a project is just a folder. So you know how in your computer, you normally have folders and subfolders and sub-subfolders to organize your data nicely. Here, you can also do that in this Explore tab. So you can always create a new project, which I'll show you just now. Another concept is that of data sources. All right. So in order for you to actually start analyzing any data, you need to connect to it somehow. So Tableau needs to know that it exists. All right. So you need to publish a data source for it. So for example, if I open here, this ER data, you're going to see the 5 data sources that are coming from the Easter Island EarthRanger. All right. So for example, in here, it's called T_events. So that's all the events data coming through into this. So I can now use this data source to analyze, where are all my rhinos? Where's this? Where's that? Using this data source here. And how do I know that this is a data source? Again, just hover on the icon, and the icon tells you it's a data source. So it's just a data connection. All right. Again, I'm going to show you just now how to set up your own data connection. You might have a shapefile that you want to bring in. You might have a spreadsheet. All the data, you can bring it in and analyze. All right. Moving on. I'm going to go back. Another type of data that you'll find in here. So let me go into this one. I hover here and I see that this is a workbook. All right. So what is a workbook? I'm hoping that a lot of you have worked with Excel. So the Excel workbook is an example of what this Tableau workbook is. So when you open Excel, you are opening a workbook, and in the workbook, you can use multiple worksheets. Same here. This is a workbook. I can open this workbook and I'll find in it multiple worksheets, which are called views. So I hover here, I see that there's a view there. All right. So those are the concepts. So now, because when I started with Tableau, I was quite confused. You come in and it's like a maze and you get confused. How do you maneuver? Knowing that now, oh, okay, I'm looking at a project, just organizing data. Oh, this is a data source, just some map data. Oh, this is a workbook. Okay, open this workbook and I find views. And in the view, it's just an analysis. So if I open this view, you would see it's just a summary analysis. Okay. As soon as it opens. So now that you know how to maneuver the Explore tab, let's now see how do you create those things, because that's what everyone is interested in, or most people. So how do you create a project and organize all your data? How do you publish your own data, your own shapefile, your own spreadsheet, and how do you then do your own analysis? And then I think we'll end there. All right. So let's go right back to the Explore tab. And let's say today we wanted to create a new project for our analysis right now. So all you do, you always come to this new, you click on new, you'll find project here. And then let's call this ERUC 2022 training. Training 1. Okay. And then in here, I can always give it a description if you so wish, or you can leave it blank. So I'm going to leave it blank. Then I say create. So now you see, where is it? There it is. There is our new project. So now I can go in there. Right now it's empty. I can add a subfolder, subfolders, however you want to organize your data. The next thing we want to do now, how do you bring in your own data? So you have your local community shapefile or spreadsheet with all the demographics, and you want to bring it in and analyze it. So how do you do so? All right. So I have here, so some of you who've been in our Tableau training might have seen this already. Where are we? Tableau. I think it's called down. Okay, so this is our Tableau training. All right. So I have here a little spreadsheet which has our community. Okay, I'm using this. So I just want you to see, appreciate, it's just a spreadsheet, and in here, so I'll just make it bigger. Okay, in here I have my local communities. So I have a community called Wakanda with a population of this much, a GDP of this much here. So it's just 3 communities. And if you wanted to just do a little bar graph or a little line graph, as the lady asked. Okay, so let's bring this in. So all you do, you come here, again, you click on new. Instead of projects, we're now going to data source. You click there, there will be a tab that opens up, which we're gonna talk to now. So it opens this tab, and then there should be a little window. There's the window. All right, so this window has 3 tabs. So these tabs are very important. The first one is, it says on this site. So you can connect to data that you've already published. So I think that makes sense. So all this data comes from your EarthRanger, so you can connect to it. I want to take your attention to these last 2 tabs. I'm going to come back to this files one. I want to talk about the connectors. I believe the sir at the back mentioned this. So, sorry, I'm forgetting your name, Peter. Cedric. Oh. So Cedric asked, can you bring in data from, different platforms? And the answer, as I'd said, it's yes. You might have data sitting on a Postgres database, data sitting on Google Drive, on OneDrive, So there's many platforms that you can bring in data from. As you can see here, it's quite a long list in here. All right. And in fact, you can even create custom connectors. So if you're quite advanced, you're quite a developer, Tableau allows you to create your own connector. So if you can't see something in here, there's an ability to create your own connector. All right. So that's number 1. And then the files, as I said, I have a file that's on my computer. I need Tableau to have access to it so that I can be able to analyze it. So now all I'm going to do is I can either drag and drop in here, or I can upload from computer. So I'm just going to drag and drop. So here's my file here. As you can see, I'm just going to drag it and drop it in there. So now it's busy loading the data. And as soon as it loads, it now shows me the fields that are in there. All right. So I hope you remember that in my spreadsheet, I have a column, which we call a field, community ID, name, population, GDP used. If I go back here, you're going to see them being loaded. Community ID, name. There's some calculated fields. Don't need to worry about that. Here's GDP used. Here's population, and then some calculated fields. All right. So the data has now loaded. We now need to remember to save. And before you save, there's something I like doing. I like just having one more look on what's being uploaded before you actually say save. So you just always come here to data source. And this principle, by the way, I also use it when you start actually doing the actual analysis. First step, always go here to the data source and just appreciate what's in there, So when you click on data source, it's going to open this page. All you're going to do here now, as soon as it finishes loading, you're going to come here at the bottom right corner and say update now. So all that does is it shows you the data that you're actually uploading. So I can see, I'm uploading community ID. Here's the values name. Here's the values population, So this is what the data you're going to say save. So now that I'm happy, all I'm going to then do is actually save. We call it publish. So whenever you see publish, it only means save. So at the top there.
Sorry.
Yes?
Yeah. The files that you dropped over there, it was in which extension? It was a CSV or normal Excel?
Great question. All right. So he asked what was the file type? What was the extension? So just to say generally, Tableau supports multiple file types. So the one I was specifically uploading is a CSV, but it could have been an XLSX, I think that's what it's called. It could have been even a spatial file, shape file you can bring in, KML, GeoJSON. So you can bring in a whole lot of different file types. All right, so great question. So going back here, we are saving. Whenever you save, they'll ask you, give it a name. So I'm gonna give it community demographics. All right, that's the name I'm gonna give it. And then remember you have your folders, because whenever you save, you wanna save into a particular folder. which you call project. So I want to save into, I think, yeah, it is this one here. So now it's selected. And then I'm going to say publish, which again, publish is just save. All right. Then it tells you data source publish success. All right. So if I had to come out of this so that you see this, I'm going to close this now that it's saved. I'm going to come and refresh this. So in here now, we should find our new data source. Just to remind you, to reiterate, this is a data source. Why? I hover here, tells you it's a data source. All right. So right now, if you had access to this Tableau site right now, you would find this data source and be able to use. Of course, obviously, given that you have permission. All right. So you could be sitting in Germany, you could be sitting anywhere. We could all be using this data source to analyze. So that's some of the power of this. We can all be using this exact data source right now, wherever we're sitting. So now you know how to take your data from your computer in here. How do you now analyze it? All right. You analyze in a workbook. So come again to the new, come to workbook, then it opens a workbook for you, and then it's going to ask you what it asked us earlier on, you know. It's going to say, do you want to connect with a data source that's in here, or that's on your computer in files, or from something sitting in the cloud? In this case, we want to connect to this one. This is the one we just published. So now I'm going to click on it and connect. All right. Once again, I did tell you this earlier on, it's great practice whenever you start analyzing or uploading anything, always go to data source just to see what's in each field. So that's what I always do. Come here. I did this earlier on. Press update now and see, oh, okay, this one I want to analyze. So now you can then decide from this and say, oh, what is the population? I want to create a bar graph of the populations of each community. So let's do that. Let's create a bar graph of the population of each community. All right. So let's go back to the sheet one. And before we create that, just appreciate. Here's our connection. Remember our data source? We could have connected to multiple. Right now we connected to one. It's important to appreciate that. And then in here, I did say these are your fields. And by the way, in here, they like calling these pills. All right. So why they call it that? If I hover here, you can see it looks like a pill. All right. So I'm going to start now using these pills and dropping them in here to do our analysis. All right. So let's just do one quick one. So what I want to do now, I want to take my community. So I'm going to drag, there's the community names are here. I'm going to drag this community and I'm going to drop it into this column. And then you should see it's going to start loading my communities. So as you can see in here, there's Bettina, Kong, and Wakanda. I can extend this if I can get this right. All right. So now I want to now see the different populations. All right. Where's my population pill? There it is here. I'm going to drag it and drop it in here. All right. So as you can see now, I'm seeing my population on the y-axis and with the name of the communities on the x-axis. All right. One more very important thing here. It's very important to understand that Tableau really looks at the type of pill that you actually dropped in there. For example, if the pill you just dragged, I hope most of you know geometries, you know coordinates. So coordinates, they are geometry type. So it's spatial, your spatial coordinates. If you're gonna drag and drop a geometry pill, it's gonna look at that and say, okay, it's a geometry field. A geometry field, you wanna normally see it spatially. So it's going to load it into a spatial map. All right, so I can show you that just now. All right, and then there's other types. If you drop a date is a date like September 21, October the 1st. So when I say, oh, okay, it's a date. So what do you do with a date? It deals with it a certain way. So the one important principle that I just need you to understand is that Tableau really looks at the type of pill that you are giving it. Type in terms of the data type, whether it's daytime geometry, or whether it's continuous. Now we're getting just a little more advanced. Whether something is continuous or dimensions, or all of that. Please come to me if you want to learn more. I can send you, I hope there's a way to send like documentations where I can send a link where it'll explain exactly that, because that's a very important one to understand. Because sometimes people come back and they're frustrated and they're like, oh, why is this not creating some graph? And then I look at it, I'm like, oh, that's a geometry. Geometry, you're now not gonna create a bar graph using a geometry field, you know, because Tableau really looks at that. All right, so that's what I wanted to just drive across. So there's a lot of things that you can then do that you normally do. You can then come here, you know, change the title. So the title thing is going to activate. So demographics of communities. All right, I can save that. I can even put labels now. All right, so if I wanted to label each one, I want to know what is exactly the population of Bettina. So all you do, there's cards in here for color, size, label. So I want to label this by the population. So I'm going to come here, drag it to label. So now it's going to give me, oh, okay, here's the population of this one. Here's a population of that one. There's a population of this one. And sometimes you want to color things. So you can even change colors. So if you go to the actual card, I click on it, it's going to open a little thing here. And I'm like, oh, I want this to be red. So you can then change it to a red color. All right. So you can do all those normal things in here. The lady at the end asked about a line graph. There's all these different graphs that are available. So what happened was, when I loaded the data here initially, Tableau just guessed. So I was like, oh, you're giving this, so it has to be a bar graph. But you can tell it. As you can see, it says automatic. So I can come and say line graph for the lady at the end. There's a line graph if you so wish. There's other graphs that are available that you can play with in here. Obviously, again, they are limited by the data that you're giving it. So be aware, don't put geometry and try to do, you know, a bar graph using a geometry field. That wouldn't make sense. And Tableau would not allow you to do that. All right. All right. So yeah, that's the basics of creating this. Any questions around that? Oh, thank you. Thank you. That's a good question. So the gentleman asked, the platform relies on the internet. So right now we are on the Tableau site, right? And the Tableau site is using internet. We do have other tools in the Tableau ecosystem. So we do have a Tableau desktop that, again, we can hook you up with, you know, where you can then analyze offline. However, this one, it's on a browser. This one is internet dependent. However, it looks very similar. So that's why I just use this one so that I don't confuse people. It looks, when you open that Tableau desktop, it's going to look very similar to this. All right. Oh yeah, one more thing. Just to save. Saving, as usual, we've already gone through this, so you should know. Click on publish. It asks you for the name. You give it a name, whatever name you want to give it, and say whatever folder you want to give it. Put it in that folder. Publish. So just to touch on that, yeah. So yeah, that answers that question. You have another question? Yeah?
So in the example you're using a data set that only has 3 rows.
Mm-hmm.
How can keep on working with each data set? How long is this going to take?
Well, if it's a huge data set, definitely, I'd advise that you start it up in Tableau Desktop. You do it there, and then when you're done, you publish. Publishing, yeah, it's going to take a while to publish up, obviously. But analyze it in a Tableau Desktop, and then leave it to publish. That's one of the reasons why you would actually need Tableau Desktop, amongst other reasons. at the back, and then I'll come in.
If you're analyzing that you have different graphs, can you make like different graphs and then form one report from it?
One report. I hope, again, it's the same lady. I got confused with the other question. So you are asking, just to make sure I'm understanding you this time. You have this workbook, right? And you want to add multiple.
And another one?
So this. So I can come here and add another sheet, and then in this sheet, do the analysis here. Is that what you're asking?
And then after that, can you make like a single report from all that, from the different analysis that you've made?
Sync all. Oh, to put it all in one. Oh, okay. So that's what they would call it. That's actually what they would call a dashboard here. So they will call it dashboard where you are bringing in all these different things. So let me just do another analysis quickly. In fact, I'm just going to quickly connect to a spatial one, just for interest's sake, and then I'm going to do that quickly. So right now, I'm going to connect. I should have, here's a communities one that I loaded before. So in here, I'm just loading, there was a GeoJSON that I had published in here, and I'm just going to reuse it. So I want you to notice that there's a second data source now here. We were looking at this one. Now this one is active. And by the way, when you add multiple data sources, just be aware of which one you are currently looking at. So these fields I'm seeing here, all these fields, they are off the grayed out communities data source. If I now click on this one, it's going to show me the fields that are in that one. All right. Because sometimes that confuses people when they start interacting with multiple data sources. All right. So, okay. So I want to interact with this one. And there's this geometry field. I'm going to just pull it and drop it in here. And I want to show you what happens when that. So as you can see, it's now saying, oh, are you giving me a geometry field? So it has to be spatial. So in here, sorry, I'm not using my mouse. So in here, you can see it's spatial. And just to add one more thing, you can change the background image in here and say, okay, instead of that one, I want to use a satellite image. I hope it doesn't take too long to load. There you go. So you can change that. So I can now see my different communities, and I can do exactly what we did before, with labels. Remember I told you with labels, you go take what you want to label by and come drop it on the label. All right, so I can see which community is which. All right, so now to the lady that she was asking, the lady here, she was asking if I can now take all of this and show it in one page.
While still on data, what do you prefer JSON over Shapefile? Because I see the spatial data set was JSON.
It's just a personal preference. For those who don't know, those spatial files, there's multiple. You can use GeoJSON, KML. A lot of people use KML in Google Earth. There's also a shapefile. The only thing I don't like about shapefile, for those who know, it has multiple files. It's actually not one file. So sometimes someone will send you two files and not send you another one, So I like GeoJSON because it's just one file. In fact, even KML, it's also just one file. It's just a personal preference. But with Tableau, you can bring all of them. All right. So, still about this.
Yeah, will it be able to take also TIFF?
TIFF. TIFF is it's an imagery. So with TIFF, I don't know. Let me just say that for now. We can check. I doubt though, but we can check. We can confirm afterwards. I've never tried that. Yeah, it's what. That's a good question actually. Or some aerial imagery that you want to bring in. Good question. Let's check that out after the session. Yeah. All right. So I do want to just answer the lady here. So we are looking at views here. So when I added here, I added a new sheet here. So you can add what's called a dashboard. So always just hover and it tells you dashboard. So now if I click there, it's now a different view, as you can see. So in here, I can see all the sheets I've created or the views I've created. So if I just take this and drop it there, it's gonna load the first one. And if I take this one here and load it maybe at the bottom here, it's gonna load the second one. So I can even now expand it like this to space it out. You can do other things on this dashboard now. You can even add, text. So I take this, drop it at the top there, and then it allows me to say, I don't know, ERUC. I can put that there. And you can add other objects in here. So you can add an image. So if you want to put your icon somewhere there, you can do so. So yeah, that's how you do it with a dashboard. Yeah.
My question was actually, you actually answered like your answer here, but I'm thinking if sorry, the type of management that we have right for the protected areas and the unprotected areas we're using these data. Some of them are somehow not experts. I say, is there a way you can keep or you can save these as a format and then you store it such that somebody just needs to input the data and then you can just publish by field of dates? And then for the people, for those who are not able to, like, they don't know much about interacting with this, because even myself, I'm a little bit lost. So I'm imagining the person that who is not very conversant with this type of technology and is left to analyze this data, which is the case we had in most of the protected areas. So is there a way you can say this and probably give a user the rights just to run the report within a certain period of time using the filter? The other thing is about the capability to handle the geospatial information. Like, you want to see the monthly distribution of species, like, let's say, like elephants within a certain period of time. Is there a way you can do that on that map?
Okay, so the first question was around setting up a template. I guess that's the idea about this, by the way, by these dashboards, because once we set up what we can call a template, once we set up that dashboard, that workbook, it's there. The data just keeps on drawing. So right now, if I had to go to the dashboard for Easter Island, it's going to update with today's data and all the past data. If I go there tomorrow, same workbook, I go in tomorrow, it's going to update, all the data up until tomorrow. So the data keeps on updating itself at the back of that template, of that workbook. All right. So all a person has to do at your site, after you've set it up, they'll just go in there and even with the filters, you can now set a view for the filters and say, okay, you want this to be already set up, and then all the person has to come in. They come in and they come into the dashboard and they just export. So it really accommodates exactly that use case. We can talk about it more afterwards, but yeah, I can show you how to create a view and all of that. But yeah, definitely. And then the second part was
On handling the spatial data over time.
So basically, you want to see spatial data for a certain period of time. Again, with the filters that do also apply to the spatial data. So the filters apply to these line graphs, bar graphs, and also these spatial aspects. So in fact, if I think this might need to refresh. Okay, so if I come into, for example, this one here, you would see that when I use the filter, it actually also affects that data, that spatial aspect as well. So it's not just limited to bar graphs only.
On reporting, when you're doing the reporting.
So reporting using...
Like, you want to show where probably the elephants were seen last month on the same month, and probably they were seen this month or within a year. You want to show that change of probably the distribution.
So okay, let me ensure I'm getting. So we have this map, for example. So you want to see what do you want to see? Do you want to see the tracks in here?
Not really the tracks, but the points.
Or just as points? So the points going all over. So instead of a line, seeing the points. Yes, we can also show it just as points because the data is there. So instead of seeing, where were we? Am I at the wrong place now? I deleted it. Okay, but there was that map. So you saw there was a block, there was a polygon or an area. So instead of seeing a polygon or a line, you want to see dots that, okay, it went here, went there, went there. Yeah, we can do that. Put dots instead of a line, basically. Yeah, well, I guess, I don't know if I call it a scatter, but yeah, it is just dots of the actual tracks. So it was reported like you have your track points, right? So it sends a track point here into your AWT, and then it goes into EarthRanger, into Tableau. So that's a track point, and then it sends another track point. So instead of us connecting those track points into lines, we can just show the actual track points. Yeah, I hope I'm understanding.
Yeah,
that's the answer.
For not for the movement of the animals, but if a ranger is collecting the data in the field with maybe keying in where he sights an elephant, he sights a zebra, and all that. That's what I'm talking about. The callers is easy to connect, yeah. But I'm asking about that data the ranger is collecting in the field.
Oh, so the observation of the reports. So you have all these reports in here, and rangers are coming in, and for example, here's one that just came through. So these here, and you want to see them spatially.
Yes, over time, like for the whole year.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, and I think it might already be in this dashboard as soon as it opens. Okay, finally. I think it's this one. All right, so if you look on the right here, I can see now spatially. So I can see the counts. There's so many geofence breaks, so many wildlife sightings, and I can also see it in terms of time. Now, if you look at our map, and let me zoom out. I'm zooming into the wrong area. Sorry, the internet, it's still thinking. Okay, so it's almost time. All right, so I can use a tool, and I can see, obviously there's not much data here, but I can see, someone reported a reference. It was Bruce J, and it was, okay, it doesn't have a name there, but you can see it like that, and you can see it all like that. And now in here, you can look at certain times, points of times. So here I can see, okay, which month do you want to look at, so you can do it in here. So you can do that, as you can see. Yeah, so that was the question, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, it's exactly that.
On addition on that, so Tableau can perform such kind of densities. For example, you have points for a whole year, so you can generate a density maybe of those patrol.
Yeah,
density for a year.
We should be able to do so because you have track points, and it's just the data. And then you can just create density based by something. Yeah, you should be able to do that. Definitely, densities should be. And I think we've gone over just slightly over the time we budgeted. If there's any more questions, do come here and let's chat. Otherwise, thanks for coming. Thank you.